So welcome to the TJ-3 show, and I'm here with
L,
L. Nice to meet you, L, for sure.
likewise.
So I want to get into what it was like living back in the 80s and 90s.
Woo!
So how old were you in
You
the
going way
80s?
back. 80s. I just got out of high school in the 80s.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
no righty. So when you look back at the 80s, you just getting out of high school, what stands out to you the most? What stands out the most in terms of just you trying to figure things out? Like what stood out the most?
I think I guess you could say as a teenager, my goals were to become a pilot. So I had aspirations to always fly. I started out young, building model aircrafts in my mom and dad's home. Lots and lots of airplanes hanging up from my ceiling.
Yeah.
So had about 3 or 4 other buddies that did the same thing. So we were, I guess, in the hood, looked upon as somewhat nerds, if you would want to say. However, it was something that was positive, trying to accomplish, my goals and dreams.
Yeah. So what steps did you take to become that?
So out of high school, I attended San Diego Mesa College, which is in San Diego. So um, once I got out of high school, it was like college was a little different. I mean, you don't have to. You can set your classes and attend them, uh, being responsible because they don't expect you to come. You come to school when you want to learn. Um, it was easy because you could take 2 classes a day, 3 classes a day, or even more. However, it wasn't like you'd have to be there from a 7:30 a.m. to 2:30.
Like a set time.
Yeah.
Right.
So you can schedule your classes accordingly.
Okay. Is it true in college that no one's gonna be like down your back or like egging you to come to class? Anything like is it
That
just
is
all
true.
on you?
That's true. So you're being a young adult. You're trying to go to class, attend class, get your grades, move on to the next class or the next semester. Trying to accomplish, the objective is to, of course, a degree.
Okay.
So, but it was pretty laid back. Sometimes the instructors they wouldn't show up, so everybody was kind of happy about that. So it's either you're going to a specific class on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday. Being there for only about 3 hours,
Yeah.
per class.
Okay. And what was the job market like back then? Like, was it easier to get jobs, certain type of jobs? Like, what was the job market like back then?
I'm trying to recall, however, job market was so out of high school. I straight from the norms, the McDonald's for me,
Yeah.
and then working for the city of San Diego Park and Recs. So really wasn't pursuing too much because I was more focused on education. Um, the job market from today back versus back then, it was you have a lot of support systems, resources today than back in my day.
Right.
So it's like, for example, making a long story short, was my son eventually became a commercial pilot, a military pilot. So he went through the ranks of being in the ROTC.
Okay.
And so from there, it kind of gave him some resources as far as people supporting him getting into the ROTC as well as going into the military academy. So
Okay.
I didn't have that mindset. I didn't have that support system. Maybe because I didn't either pursue going into ROTC, even though I attended a school down in San Diego, Lincoln High School, that did have ROTC, but it didn't dawn on me that that was an avenue that I could go down and perhaps,
Right.
get established in the military.
Okay. Alrighty. So, how much did things cost back then? Like
I'm gonna tell you one
gas,
thing that
rent.
stood out. So as a young guy, my mom would have to send me to. My mom would send me to the store to buy her a pack of cigarettes with
Right.
a note. That I recall, cigarettes was $1.25
A pack.
a pack.
How many comes in a pack?
I'm assuming like about maybe 20.
Okay.
I'm assuming.
So about
Yeah,
the
because
same.
I don't. Yeah, I know it was just a pack, a square pack of. I can remember the brand name was Raleigh's. So they had some. I guess some benefits to purchasing their cigarettes. They had these little coupons you would save up and get you certain things from, I guess, their catalog for the standpoint. So
Yeah.
that's what stood out for me. I really didn't pay any attention to prices in regards to. You have to have money to go into the store in order to get your sodas, your cookies, your chips, your candies,
right.
exactly. So I can't recall what the gas amount was, because yeah, it just I didn't really pay no attention to it.
I just went in.
Yeah,
I just bought it.
exactly.
For sure. Alrighty. So I got a different question. So, what do you think is the biggest difference in technology right now? Like, because we got all the phones and
Ooh.
stuff now. But how was like life back then without the phones, if you recall, back in the 80s?
10 cents, 25 cents on a telephone on the corner of the streets. That's
Payphone,
where
right?
Payphone. That's what you would, pack bill. That's what you would, revert to in regards to, your dial-up phones at the house, your touch button phones at the house. It's a little different. So even we used to catch the bus.
Right.
More so on Saturdays, we would go to the skating ring, 2 sessions, and we would catch that bus at. Actually, we would get dropped off. Coming back, we'd have to catch that bus at night at around about 11ish, 11:30.
Okay.
Catch that bus downtown from the location where we used to go skating at, and then from downtown, we'd all hang out at Jack in the Box. From there, we would catch our bus to the house.
Right.
And walk on home.
Just walk on home.
Yes.
So it's very much non-monetized.
Right.
Like it's
yes.
like you got on the bus,
right.
You knew where to go.
Mm-hmm,
there was no map telling you, you go here, you go there.
Right.
So
we would know the route. We would know the route. Exactly.
Do you remember your first cell phone?
Yes, it was one of these big old mobile, probably weighed about maybe 3 pounds, 5 pounds.
3 to 5 pounds.
Yeah, exactly. Motorola. Motorola is the name brand. Yes, boy.
Right.
We was in heaven then.
So basically, you had one of those big phones that you see
exactly.
in the movies, right?
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Man. So how do you think people handle boredom without the cell phones these days?
I don't think there's no boredom. I think that without the telephone, I mean, there's so much going on in society today that, there's no more playing football in the streets. There's no more playing tag or hide and go seek,
Right.
things of that nature. Today, I mean,
Play as kids. Right.
Yeah, the electronics consumes the normal young kids, adults. It's always something that they got going on, different types of activities. You don't see too many people playing chess out in the park, or checkers. It's all about the electronics. It's just it has taken over society from communication, stream, television. I mean you got hundreds of channels of TV. Back then we had that I recall was Channel 6, Channel 8, Channel 10, and then around about maybe at 11 p.m. TV goes off.
Okay.
So a lot different then versus now.
Okay. Because today we got a bunch of channels. It's almost too many for you to choose from.
Just a lot of, just something that captures the imagination of certain, uh, folks, whether it's news, whether it's sports,
Yeah.
whether it's reality. Yes.
Yes. All right. What kind of music were you listening to back then?
Good
Because
question.
music is
Good
way
question.
different
Yes.
then than it is now.
Being what you called I guess you could call me an old head, I listen to the same type of music that my dad, for the most part, played, especially on Saturdays. Saturdays, we would wake up, clean the house, wash the car, clean the yard. My dad was a construction guy, so it was like military. You get up, you do everything you have to do before you go play tag football in the streets,
Right.
or whatever it was. So the Al Greens, the Johnny Taylors, then versus now, a little up more dated, where you got your Charlie Wilsons, you got your Gladys Knights, you got your Frankie Beverly's, man. Jazz. I mean, I appreciate the music industry because of what we learned as young kids growing up till today, and it still goes on versus what society in our community, where you got a lot more rap, which
Right.
you know I'm okay with it, but the old rap, the LL Cool
LL
J's,
Cool J's, the kind of
Kumo
like the
D's,
ghetto
and
boys type of.
yeah. So, but this new stuff, I can't keep up with it. So
Right. I got you. So, perfect question. So, do you think music and pop culture affects relationships? Because in the music, we're always talking about, F this and F that, and, we should treat women this way. And, the women's rapping about, these niggas this and these niggas that. So, do you think all of the music and the pop culture kind of affects how relationships?
Yeah, I do believe that it does. It's how you were brought up and how you were introduced to certain types of genres of music. Um, I think it's a little bit more. I mean, you don't see a lot of the back and forth, one person going at it versus back then. I mean, it was all about you know um, the type of the brand of music that we were raised up on, or I was raised up on, versus how the young adults now are raised up on. They listen. I mean, I don't understand why all the going back and forth versus trying to help one another.
Right.
In society. I mean, we're all human beings, so I think that in order to survive, number one,
We need each other.
it's all about respect. It's all about you got some nationalities will help help their own nationalities out. Um, Sad to say, but some of our people, it's where I want to be the boss. I want to control this and control that. Like this. If everybody got along, I think the world would be a lot better place than what it is today.
Right. If everybody, helped each other out for us to kind of elevate together.
Exactly.
And I think
Exactly.
kind of be a more better as a people, as a whole.
Yes.
So, what were people wearing back then? Like what fashion trends do you remember back then?
I do remember the coming up. Once you get up into high school, it's about you want to be able to work, to be able to provide, to be able to have a Levi jeans, a Levi jacket and jeans outfit. Um, Even though I understand now that there are cycles, like Levi's, every 20 years there's a cycle where they'll come back,
Cycle in and
you
out.
know.
Yeah.
So back then, I mean, that's all we pretty much regarding shoes. It was either the Chuck Taylors, it was the NBAs, for the most part.
Like
Then we had
jerseys.
NBA shoes.
Okay.
They had
Okay.
the NBA shoes.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the Crocosac shoes, the jellies that the young ladies wore. Don't know all the shoe brands or shoe types,
Yeah. Me
but
neither.
those were some of the things that I can reminisce on and remember the Wallabies, all those type of shoes versus today's shoes. I mean, their price range is enormous today. I mean, especially when you go into the world of the Michael Jordan. I mean, I'm not for sure about the LeBron James. I never had a pair of those, but I still have a few pair of Jordans,
Okay.
some Adidas. You know what else? Today, I mean, I don't buy as much as I used to.
Right.
So but I still got a decent amount of shoes for the most part. Your jeans, I mean, there's all types of jeans. I mean, it's and they're very expensive.
Yeah. For
Back
sure.
then versus now. I mean, even a pair of Levi's, it's probably close to 80 to $100.
Bro, a pair of Levi's is
If that.
70 to 80 bucks a pair, depending
Yes,
on what you
yes,
get.
exactly. So it's all about just controlling your having spendits, things of that
Yeah.
nature, in regards to the things that you like. Now, if you're in that echelon to where you're able to afford the things that you like, hey, so be it.
Hey, have
If
at it.
you're able to afford it, then you know it's all
It's
yours.
all yours. Do you remember your first car?
I do. As a young kid, well, not young kid, teenager, that I got into liking lowriders.
Okay.
Yes, yes. And my mother, she handed down to me a Regal. Man, I got into one of these car clubs, and I put the fancy paint, the fancy interior, and I got the hydraulics, the
Right.
rims, and I actually got into a, a car club called City Car Club, which is pretty much Hispanics. So got into that, and I just started enjoying fixing up cars, cleaning cars, things of that nature, and
All right.
there I would be, nice music, going out to the swap meet to buy my tires once I needed them.
All right. Sweet. Man.
Yes,
For sure. For sure. Did you have a pager back then? Like,
I
were
did.
pagers like a big thing back
Yeah,
then?
it was. It was. It was. I mean, as as you're growing up, I mean, there are certain things that will come into in style in society where you got a square pager, you got a pen pager,
Right.
so on and so forth, until you eventually it's a season practically for everything, whether it's electronics, clothing, um, what you enjoy doing with your friends or family. But it starts and it finishes, and it goes on to the next thing, and everything is, like I said, is a cycle. So
Right.
you know,
Okay. Alrighty. For sure. I got three more questions in reflection. So when you look back, what do you miss the most about that decade, about that era?
basically family. So we're all here on
Right.
this earth for X amount of years. The question mark is for how long.
Right.
It's all based upon how you carry yourself, what you do with your life, things of that nature. So as a young kid at the age of 13, I lost my dad. So 13 years of age, lost my dad. So it's kind of okay. So what's next? I had an older brother, but he was into his own world. So
Right.
he liked music. He had his girlfriend, things of that nature. So, was just trying to figure my way through life.
Right, right.
Had a very strong support system through my mom. Had older sister and two other younger siblings. So, just trying to find my way through life, trying to work, trying to support, just take care of myself for the most part. So, family was and is still important to me as a father, grandfather, brother, for the most part.
No, right. No, righty, sweet. If you could go back to one day in the 80s, what would you do?
If I could go back, I think it would be flying. I started flying for a little while, but flying is expensive.
Yeah,
So,
especially
you're
now, right?
exactly, and people don't know, or a lot of people probably don't know that when you start flying, you pay to rent the plane, you pay for your fuel, you pay for your instructor. So there's at least three parts coming out your pockets. So that
Right.
means,
Within that price.
within that price,
Okay.
basically. And it gets more expensive the more you start flying. However, if you take a path going through the military, way lot easier. I mean, based upon, your education, your mindset, your determination, your discipline on this is what I want to do.
Right.
So at the end of the road, it can be golden for you to where you're making a nice amount of money, annually to provide for you, your family, and to do things that you like to do, whether it's traveling, whether it's you know any type of hobbies that you have. So
Okay.
it's a lucrative career.
For sure. So, last question. What advice would you give to the young cats out there?
My
Just
advice
general
would be
advice.
my advice would be just stay humble. Respect is a major mentality. Life is short, so you need to seize the moment, seize the opportunity when it presents itself, so
I
that
agree with that.
you can position yourself
Hmm.
to longevity in life,
Hmm.
health. It's a lot of. I guess they frown upon this country in regards to the way um, we consume things, whether it's chicken, turkey, pork, whatever. You have to live healthy and be conscious about what you consume in your temple, your body, so that you can, reach the 70, the 80, the 90, the 100
Right.
marks to survive.
For sure.
Because, I'm always amazed that when I see someone younger than me transition, it's like, wow. So it kind of keeps opening up my eyes to, okay, you got to eat right. You got to exercise. You got to stay active. You can't consume certain types of food all the time every day. You cannot do that.
Right.
Even with water, mm,
Yeah, I gotta
I'm a
kind of
little
have a
shy when it
little.
comes to water. I mean, I do drink it, but not like I should be. To versus the Coca Colas and the Pepsis and the different types of sodas, even the sports drinks,
Right.
pH balances, things of that nature. So you have to be careful about what you consume in your body, because it can destroy you, just like smoking a
Just like
cigarette.
any other thing, right?
Exactly.
You know, just the whole thing is just do it in moderation, for sure.
Moderation is the key.
Research,
Key word: moderation.
research what it is. How it's
Yes.
bad for you.
Yes.
Because we're all gonna consume more. All
Yes.
the
Yes.
sodas and
Exactly.
things like that.
Exactly.
But the key is just
That's
moderation,
true.
for
That
sure.
is so true.
Right? I think we can wrap it up right there, for sure.
All right. Appreciate you, my
Thanks,
brother. All right.
for being on TJ-3 show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.